It's no secret that there is a hiring shortage going on right now. With 9.3 million job openings and many other employees looking to make a career switch, employers are having a tough time attracting and retaining top talent. I'm Skye, a staff writer with business.com, and today I'm joined by Ranga Bodla, the VP of Industry Marketing for Oracle NetSuite, to talk about how you can use technology and automation to alleviate those hiring shortages. Hi, Ranga. Thank you so much for being here today with me to talk about the hiring shortages and how we can alleviate them through the use of automation. To get us started, which industries are we seeing most impacted by the hiring shortages and why?
Thanks for that question, Skye, and appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this morning or this afternoon, depending on where somebody's watching this. But to answer your question specifically on the industry front, no industry has been immune from this hiring shortage, whether you're talking about heavily service-based industries, you're talking about construction, you're talking about obviously the healthcare space, but even areas like technology are experiencing hiring shortages. And we're seeing this across the board where, just the circumstances that have happened in the last, 22 months, just where things are, that almost every industry seems to be impacted by this hiring/labor shortage. And I think it's that perfect storm of both growth coming back, people buying, the demand is coming, but there's a lack of supply. So it's not, you're seeing more and more people getting back into the workforce, but the challenge, it's not coming fast enough to meet the demand that's being expected. And so, you are seeing services industries, I would say, being affected more so than I would say, maybe more product-based industries. But I don't think, like I said, no one is necessarily immune, and you're seeing hiring shortages across those. And just one other piece I'll add to that is it's also just being exacerbated by and I'm not going to use the term because I think it's overused, but you're seeing a lot of people. There's a lot of movement in the job market. You're seeing a lot of people taking new positions. They're moving different companies. They're even moving different industries. And as a result, that's also causing an acute labor shortage as well.
So I guess going forward, how can companies rely on automation to alleviate these hiring shortages and retain the current employees that they already have?
So, what we're seeing is, and this is where I think automation is really critical. There's a couple of angles to the automation piece that I'll bring up. You're seeing companies look at tasks that they may have done previously with human labor, and say they're going to just automate that because that frankly wasn't a very it wasn't a good use of that person's time. I actually talked to a CFO literally yesterday, and we were having this conversation where they mentioned a situation where they had an AP clerk, and they were literally having to manually key in stuff from one spreadsheet into their accounting system. And that's a great example where you could drive some automation in there, and you're not gonna get rid of that person. In fact, that person is very valuable. What you're going to do is upskill that person's job. So instead of just having to do this manual data entry, they could do something else. They could be reaching out to their vendors, to their customers, making sure they can do follow-up things. They can do things that are much more relevant and that can't be automated, or that's a different level of automation and help provide that. The other thing on the automation front is you're seeing people leverage automation as a way to alleviate the hiring shortage. Where you had people, if you can't hire, that ends up being a burden on the people that are, people quit, people resign, people move on, or you've got a bunch of open positions. Guess what? That pressure, it happens onto the people that are left, and automation can be a really great way to help alleviate that. Where, again, same in this example or even other examples, where if you're doing some automation of things that you had people doing, then again, that's taking that off their plate and giving them less things that they're having to worry about, which obviously eliminates the pressure and hopefully you're not burning out the people that are left and further exacerbating that cycle that's occurring.
Great insight. So are there any potential challenges of relying on automation? And if so, how can businesses mitigate them or overcome them altogether?
Well, I think it's important, what I was just mentioning in that example where I talked about upskilling somebody. I do think it's really important for businesses to message appropriately when they're having conversations about automation. This isn't about eliminating jobs, or this isn't about trying to reduce the number of people we have to hire. It's a careful message, right? Because you're trying to help reduce the workforce that you need, but it's not a cost savings conversation. I think that's the really important piece here. I think it's really more about how do we be more efficient? How do we do more with the resources that we have? And that's a different conversation than, hey, we're trying to eliminate a bunch of positions just to save money. And I think that's the delicate balance that companies need to do, particularly with automation. Is automation can drive efficiencies. Automation can drive a better experience for users, for the end customer, even for the internal employees. It can help, if you've done some automation, it can obviously help when you onboard new employees as well. So all of those things I think are a big part of this, that what companies should be focused on when they're thinking about automation as a potential pitfall, but also what they can do to mitigate it. And I think that communication of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the benefits it's gonna realize are critically important for organizations.
Great. So before we wrap up here today, did you have any final advice on best practices for relying on technology to automate business functions, specifically in regards to alleviating the hiring shortage?
Yeah, I think this is, it's really important to think of technology as an enabler. Technology isn't going to fix a bad process. Like if you just apply technology to an existing bad process, you still got a bad process. And so, I think it's really important to think about automation and technology in particular as a way to drive better efficiencies, to drive a better experience for either customers or employees or vendors or whichever one it ultimately ends up impacting, but not thinking of it as just it's not a silver bullet. It's not a cure-all. And you really have to carefully think about, when you put technology in place, how is it going to help me, and what benefits is it going to realize, and also realize that I have to think about more than just, it's not just a Band-Aid. I think that's a really important part.
Great. Well, that was all that we had for today, Ranga. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Skye. Appreciate the time and the opportunity.